If you'd ever asked Blanca if she was happy, a resounding yes wouldn't be hard for her to produce, and only slightly more difficult for her to believe. You see, she was the only child of a veteran married couple in a pretty shabby part of town. Her mother was an assistant pharmacist, her father a veteran from the war. His monthly checks gave them that little extra they needed to go from a meager existence to somewhat decent living. She even had nice birthday parties growing up, with nice presents and a big cake, with confetti. She loved it growing up, as it always reminded her of the circus, which was one of her favorite places in the world. She'd gone there once when she was barely old enough to remember, but she never forgot the joy she felt on that day. But then the government changed, and suddenly her father's checks began to shrink. Along with inflation, soon enough the family savings were drained. Mom's second and third jobs couldn't afford Dad's insurance anymore. Times were desperate. Despite it all, her parents would remind her every day that as long as they could see her smiling face, it would all be worth it. They could still go on. That did little comfort when the repo man came for the home. They had a month to come up with more money than they make in 2. An impossibility, to be sure. Their luck seemed to change one day, when on their way from school, Blanca was approached by a pair of men in lab coats. See, they had been working for a new pharmaceutical company, and were looking for young, cute girls to be the face of their new makeup brand, Everclear. All she had to do was sign a simple NDA agreement and go down to their labs for testing. She was apprehensive at first, until they gave her the first week's payment in advance. It was enough to pay off the repo man, even more in fact. And if she subscribed to the month-long plan, her family would be set for a very long time, maybe even for life. She signed away her soul, without another thought. Her mother, worried beyond belief, nearly passed out when Blanca trudged into their home later that night, way past her expected return. She was so mad she didn't even notice the substance smeared on Blanca's face, or the thick bulge in her jacket pocket. When Blanca simply flashed that smile of hers and revealed the wad of cash, her parents' eyes nearly popped out of their heads. She told them the same thing the men had told her. It was all above board and they didn't see the harm in it. Thanking their lucky stars, Blanca and her family slept easy for the first night in a long time. Blanca most of all. After all, she had money in her pocket, and that uncomfortable stiffness would go away sooner or later, as she was told. Blanca would return to the trials in the following weeks, each night coming back with more money after testing more extreme lotions, creams, powders, and sprays. She stunk of powerful chemicals, so badly that she ended up having to sleep on the fire escape some nights. Still, her smile never left her face, even as it grew harder to stop. The night of the last trial, she was placed in a strange device, one that was scarcely explained, but communicated its macabre importance clearly. Needles, nozzles, and tubes and terminals gave the seemingly mundane makeup test a decidedly sci-fi bend. The pain was excruciating, and she'd find herself waking up after screaming herself unconscious, only to begin wailing in agony all over again, bobbing in and out of consciousness as the machine did its grotesque work. By the end of it, she didn't even know where, when, or who she was, just that her name was Blanca, and it was all over. She eventually regained enough of her memory to stumble back home, finding it hard to ignore the buzzing and wriggling under her skin. Everything seemed to be covered in a white haze, even breathing did not come so easily. She nearly suffocated climbing the stairs to her apartment, where she knocked expectantly. She heard her dad call out, "She's here!" to her mom, who excitedly ran over to open the door and greet her. Whatever thing stood before Blanca's mother could not be said to have been the same girl she loved. Sure, it was just as tall as her, and wore the same outfit, albeit stained with fluids she really wouldn't like to consider, and even stood in the same way, but this faceless monster surely was just that, a monster. Blanca's mother screamed and fell back, slamming the door shut with her foot. Springing into action for the first time in years, her father went to deal with whatever it was that had shocked and frightened his wife. Upon seeing the freak at his doorstep, he found he could do nothing but scream as well, slamming the door and rushing to phone the police. By the time the cops had arrived, whatever it was that had been there was gone, leaving only a small satchel of money. In that moment, the parents fully realized their grave mistake.